you're now seeing a more greater marketing. I'm putting on my Wharton marketing hat. You're seeing the marketing more of their players. So you're seeing sponsorship agreements.
The question stares us in the face. Has the WNBA lost its identity trying to copy the NBA? It's provocative, it's controversial, and it might just cut to the heart of the league's biggest existential tension. From uniform styles to game pacing, broadcast presentation to marketing strategy, more often than not, you'll catch whispers or shout that the WNBA is chasing a blueprint that was never meant for it. We open on this. Imagine a world where the WNBA courts are carpeted in LED screens.
Well, first off, wonderful to be here with all of you, and there's not ever a question that doesn't start with growth when you talk about women's basketball right now, and I could not be more excited and proud for where our sport is.
Dunk contests dominate highlights, and superstar isolation ball is king. That world is creeping closer, but at what cost? The league that once prided itself on subtlety, team cohesion, tactical discipline, and communal spirit now risks being diluted in a rush to mirror what already exists in men's basketball. In this video, I'm going to take you deep inside that tension. We'll interrogate every shift, spotlight the moments when identity sells out, and celebrate what's being lost and what remains to be saved.
We're seeing this big surge of interest in women's sports in particular. The WNBA is having a great period. Netflix just picked up the rights to the Women's World Cup. I remember during the Final Four a couple years ago, I was at a hotel somewhere and went downstairs into the bar, and it was all guys my age kind of jumping up and down and having beers and cheering. And then I looked up and they were watching Caitlin Clark in the Final Four. So it feels to me like there's this real...
This is not just a comparison, it's a challenge, because if the WNBA gives up what made it unique, it doesn't just lose to the NBA, it loses itself. If you're ready to dig deep, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. To understand how we got here, we've got to rewind. The WNBA was born in 1996, not as a rival to the NBA, but as its sister league. It carried the NBA's logo, its backing, and even its calendar. From the start, that relationship was both a blessing and a burden. The NBA's financial and promotional muscle gave women's basketball a platform like no other, but that same partnership cast a long shadow, one that's only grown darker as the WNBA has tried to define its own voice. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the WNBA looked nothing like the NBA, and that was its charm. Teams like the Houston Comets and the Detroit Shock played a gritty, tactical brand of basketball rooted in defense, ball movement, and fundamentals. Players like Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, and Dawn Staley represented more than talent. They represented authenticity. But as social media took over, highlight culture exploded.
Yeah, it's been really exciting and interesting to see this surge in recent years. And I think beyond just the actual games being consumed more, just the increase in social engagement around it, the increase in brands being interested in being around it, and the opportunities that opens up for different storytelling. I think I've been at Whistle for like 12 years, and I've been really happy and pleasantly surprised to see in the last 3 or 4 years how
It's polished, sure, but it often feels like the women's game is being filtered through a men's lens. When you can close your eyes and barely tell the difference between an NBA intro and a WNBA highlight reel, that's not progress, that's identity blur. Then comes game style. The WNBA used to pride itself on elite team basketball. Ball movement, spacing, and execution were the league's DNA. But with the rise of stars like Caitlin Clark and Sabrina Ionescu, the media machine started craving NBA-style heroes. Isolation plays, deep threes, flashy crossovers. Suddenly, the spotlight wasn't on teams but personalities. It's entertaining, yes, but it shifts the focus from collective excellence to individual brand power. And finally, marketing and messaging. The WNBA's recent campaigns lean heavily into hype culture. Big graphics, bold slogans, celebrity shoutouts. It's a direct echo of how the NBA markets its stars. But here's the catch. The WNBA's greatest strength has always been authenticity. The stories of players grinding overseas, balancing motherhood, fighting for equality. That realness was unmatched. Now, the league risks losing that emotional gravity for the illusion of NBA-level cool. And in trying to copy that swagger, the WNBA might be dimming its own brilliance, the kind that never needed imitation to inspire. Here's where things really start to heat up. The identity crisis isn't just aesthetic anymore. It's cultural, emotional, and deeply internal. The WNBA's evolution has sparked tension between players, players, fans, and even legends of the game. You've got old-school pioneers, women who built this league from scratch, calling out what they see as a dangerous drift. They argue that the WNBA is trading authenticity for attention, values for virality. When Lisa Leslie, Candace Parker, or Swin Cash hint that today's league is losing its roots, people listen. They're not saying progress is bad. They're asking why progress suddenly feels like mimicry. Then there's the new wave. Players raised on mixtapes, social media, and NBA crossovers. They see no issue with embracing flash or fame. To them, visibility equals power. They argue that the WNBA deserves the same stage, production value, and marketing firepower as the NBA.
You're now seeing a more greater marketing. I'm putting on my Wharton marketing hat. You're seeing the marketing more of their players. So you're seeing sponsorship agreements. You're seeing, advertising agreements with WNBA players. You watch television now. You look at social media. WNBA players are now valued assets. So I look at each individual. If I were a player in the WNBA, I'd say, look, there's my contract value. In the short run, that's unlikely to be the biggest part of my revenue.
Let's go deeper, because this isn't just about style or branding. It's about philosophy. The WNBA was founded with a mission rooted in representation and community. It wasn't just another sports league. It was a platform for women to redefine athletic excellence on their own terms. But in chasing the NBA's formula for fame and revenue, the WNBA risks rewriting that original mission. Start with the business model. The NBA thrives on spectacle. Stars drive merchandise, ratings, and global reach. But the WNBA's strength has always been connection. Fans know players by name, follow their off-season overseas journeys, and engage directly with them on social media. When that intimacy gets replaced by slick corporate marketing, the kind that looks more brand than bond, something essential gets lost. Then, look at on-court dynamics. The NBA's influence is clear. Pace is faster, spacing wider, and star players more empowered. But the women's game was built on balance, selfless ball movement, gritty defense, and basketball IQ. When the WNBA starts promoting,
it's like going to a concert. And the anticipation when she pulls up from 30 feet, the reaction of the crowd, the attention from home, the emotional investment from fans, and a broad stroke of fans, is unlike anything I've experienced in the sports that I cover. So covering her games is just a completely unique experience in the best way.
Voting logo threes over team execution, it begins erasing the artistry that made it special in the first place. And finally, the cultural heartbeat. The WNBA has been a leading voice in social justice, gender equality, and LGBTQ+ advocacy, things the NBA only followed later. That courage was the league's identity. But lately, those conversations have been overshadowed by celebrity narratives and media feuds. When you start acting like the NBA, you start inheriting its distractions too. So here's the truth. The WNBA doesn't need to become the NBA to grow. It needs to remember why it existed in the first place, to offer something the NBA never could: genuine, unapologetic authenticity. This identity crisis isn't just shaping the WNBA's future, it's reshaping how fans, sponsors, and young players view women's basketball as a whole. Because when a league built on difference starts chasing sameness, it sends a message that being unique isn't enough, and that's dangerous. Think about the next generation. Young girls watching today's WNBA stars. They're not just seeing talent, they're absorbing what success looks like. If all they see is the NBA's reflection.
We're seeing this big surge of interest in women's sports in particular. The WNBA is having a great period. Netflix just picked up the rights to the Women's World Cup. I remember during the Final Four a couple years ago, I was at a hotel somewhere and went downstairs into the bar, and it was all guys my age kind of jumping up and down and having beers and cheering. And then I looked up and they were watching Caitlin Clark in the Final Four. So it feels to me like there's this real
And culturally, there's a ripple effect. The WNBA has always been a symbol of women defining success on their own terms, not trying to fit into an existing mold. Losing that spirit doesn't just weaken the league, it weakens the movement. Because here's the irony. The moment the WNBA stops chasing the NBA is the moment it'll finally surpass it. Not in money or ratings, but in meaning. So here's the bottom line. The WNBA doesn't need to copy the NBA to command respect. It already is something something the NBA can never replicate: authentic, community-driven, and fearless in its purpose. The more it leans into that uniqueness, the more power it gains. The real question isn't, can the WNBA be like the NBA? It's, can the WNBA stay true to itself when the world keeps telling it not to? Fans don't fall in love with this league because it's louder or flashier. They fall in love because it's real, because it's about athletes who fought twice as hard to get half as far. Because every game, every story, every fan interaction feels personal, not packaged. That's the magic. That's what no marketing campaign can manufacture. If the WNBA remembers its roots, the passion, the principles, the people, it won't need to borrow the NBA's spotlight. It'll build its own. So to the league, to the players, to the fans, the next chapter isn't about imitation. It's about reclamation. Let the NBA be the show. Let the WNBA stay the soul. If you believe the WNBA should stop copying and start leading, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below, because the conversation isn't over. It's just getting started.